Hey everyone, welcome back to Modern SaaS Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, and now I can call him friend, Sri Ganesan from Rocketlane. He's a founder and CEO. He has been doing Rocketlane for quite a few years now. I met Sri through a common connection, and since then, I've been fully impressed with him. Sri, welcome to the pod.
Hey Aditya, thanks for having me on.
Excited to chat and learn all the things with how can you do modern onboarding and SaaS in the SaaS world. So excited to chat with that. To begin with, I want to start with your hot take. You had mentioned to me once that you mentioned that the true churn happens right in the onboarding itself. Could you elaborate that for our audience?
I learned this statistic from Aaron Thompson over at 𝗩𝗚𝗓𝗏. The interesting stat he mentioned was, churn at first opportunity means, customers who churn whenever it's the first moment they are allowed to churn, when the contract ends, when something is up for renewal, etc. And apparently 90% of churn at first opportunity is decided in the first 30 days of engagement with the customer, right? So think about this, right? Like you got sold a deal by a great AE who, convinced you about all the, fun you're going to have on this new platform. And you went into this partnership believing you're going to get so much value. And if that initial partnership with the vendor doesn't live up to that expectation, right? If you don't see them as, hey, this person onboarding me is not too professional, or they don't know what they're doing, or a lot of hiccups along the way, or hey, platform isn't behaving the way we expected it to. All of that is observed keenly in that first 30 days, and already people have a buyer's remorse. They're thinking about, should I invest further time in this? Should I just, cut my losses, and as soon as it comes up that we can move out, let's move out at that first opportunity.
I love this.
And I think it works both ways. It's not just churn starts at onboarding. I also believe expansion starts at onboarding, because you do it the other way, right? If you really impress the customer from get-go, and very recently we got our largest customer, like a $200K deal. And in that first month that we were going through the journey with them, we had a 2-month onboarding process, but after month 1, they said, hey, we are expanding, another 120K expansion on top.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So, I think you make that impression during onboarding, which decides your future with that customer.
Brilliantly said. Love it. Didn't think about this to that level, that it is actually so true that it happens in that first 30 to 60 days, both expansion opportunities on the positive side and also the churn risk is already there. Was that the impetus of the Rocketlane, and do you want to explain what Rocketlane is? Why did you start it?
Rocketlane is a purpose-built platform for implementation, customer onboarding, professional services projects that we all do with our customers, right? And the impetus was actually from my previous experience. So this is my second SaaS startup. The first one was in the messaging space, got acquired by a company called Freshworks, and sort of got pushed into a mid-market and lower enterprise sort of journey fairly quickly in the previous product. And I used to always worry about how the onboarding is going to go as soon as we close a big deal. That was the first thing I was thinking about. Hey, who do I hand this to? Because there were some people who were like superstars who I could rely on and ensure they will get the job done, but not everyone was equal. And so it came down to who is doing the onboarding. I think this gets called as a hero-driven motion rather than like a system-driven motion where you're banking on the hero to pull it off. And even then, I never knew what was the true sentiment of the customer around how things were going, or what was the true status of a project. Because our team will say everything is green till the week we're supposed to go live. And that week is when I will learn, okay, we actually need more time, because till then everyone's trying hard to make it happen, hustling, right? But then, you have a plan, you're not sticking to the plan, things are delayed, you think you will make up later. The momentum is lost somewhere. And sometimes customers disengage because they lost belief, because you lost that momentum. And we had a lot of experiences of having to come in and save the day with these customers, turn things around. And that's where I thought, hey, everyone is cobbling together these ad hoc, siloed tools and trying to create an experience for the customer. None of these were built for customer onboarding. None of these tools that we use are customer centric. And maybe that needs to change. We are all building modern SaaS after all. So the customer experience for onboarding also needs to be modern and evolve with the days. And that was the impetus really for us to build this.
And when you started thinking about it, obviously you mentioned that people are already using some kind of tools like maybe spreadsheets to track the project management task with customers, or the typical project management tools like Asana, Jira. Were there gaps that you felt like, yes, these tools are there, but the market opportunity, the experience is so poor that I have to go and solve this problem? What were the key workflows that were missing if somebody's using, let's say, ClickUp or Asana, versus where does Rocketlane comes in? This is where those existing tools are still not giving the best experience to your customers. And this is the gap that we identified, and that's what the true Rocketlane stands for. What would those couple of things would be?
Yeah, I think since none of these tools were built ground up to be customer shareable, few things happen, right? One is information is siloed. So you're using, let's say, Asana, you're using some spreadsheet somewhere, you're using email to communicate, Google Docs, Slack shared channels. So information is all over the place. No one has that one place to gain visibility on what's happening, because each tool is doing part of the job, right? Notion is doing part of the job, Slack is doing part of the job, Asana is doing part of the job. Instead, we felt there is a need to have a consolidated, unified experience. So that was one insight that we had when we started building the product. The second one was, and this we just were scoring forums of these project management tools to understand what people are talking about their experience, right?
Nice.
The common thing we saw was there were actually customers who were running two parallel projects on these tools. One with internal tasks that they didn't want to share with customers, more like, hey, I need to get all this done, but it's too much to put it in front of the customer. And then customer shareable tasks. And they were actually building automations to keep these two projects in sync. And we thought, make it one and provide the right visibility on tasks, what needs to be internal, what is shareable. And the other thing we kept hearing was a lot of customers had resistance to participate and come into your collaboration tools. They would say, hey, IT won't let me use Asana, or IT won't let me use your Jira. You need to come into our Jira, things like that. So again, how do we solve that access problem was one more thing we thought through and said, hey, let's allow each of our customers to create their own branded portal on their domain. So it's like launch.𝗩𝗚𝗏.com, and your customer has whitelisted access to 𝗩𝗚𝗏. So, you give them a magic link to access this portal and say, hey, we put all your onboarding content, documents, plan on launch.𝗩𝗚𝗏.com. That's our onboarding portal. Come in and follow where you are at the journey. So the exec sponsor on the customer side accesses that at kickoff. And from there, it's super easy to hold the customer accountable because everyone else knows the boss is watching. So those were, I would say, a few key elements. There's a lot more. I think just turning that switch on, saying, hey, how do we think about this when there's a customer and there's a vendor, gave us so many angles to differentiate and build beautiful experiences.
I love it. I didn't even know these exact pain points that the general purpose tools would have, and how these daily small things. Sometimes people are looking at big differentiation story, but sometimes the devil is in the details as well, where these experiences matter when I'm going to use this every single day. Loved it. And I'm sure there's probably a lot more. As you said, this is just probably at the surface level what you talked about. There's one word you use right now, that purpose-built. Rocketlane is a purpose-built software. And on the other hand, I love purpose-built tools because the way you exactly said, these tools are designed to optimize your specific advanced workflows that the general purpose tools are missing. On the other hand, the movement I'm seeing in the industry right now, this all-in-one software, there are a lot of all-in-one cool kids. We used to position ourselves all-in-one. And I'll come to one of my newer realization there as well. But to get your perspective, where do you stand on the spectrum of should we think about when we are building as a SaaS, should we be thinking of purpose-built software or should we be thinking about all-in-one software? And I'll add one more qualification there, because one is what we want to do, but on the other hand, from a customer's lens also, in the current market with the economic things, people want to consolidate tools. There's too much SaaS fatigue, but the data silos are there. So there is a story of that all-in-one, but then there is also a story of purpose-built software. I'm sure you probably stand toward purpose-built, but I would love to hear, how do you think about the world? Like, would Rocketlane ever evolve into all-in-one? How do you think about these things? So would love to hear your thought. What's the future of SaaS? Is it purpose-built or is it modern all-in-one?
I actually think the two are not, at odds with each other.
Okay.
The way I think of it is, yes, we are moving towards all-in-one, but all-in-one for a function. Even Rocketlane, I say it's purpose-built. It's purpose-built for that implementation team or, onboarding team, professional services team. But it's trying to be all-in-one for that function.
Correct.
We are not trying to say, hey, use this as a CRM and use this as a customer success tool and use this as an onboarding tool. We are saying, hey, if you're running initiatives and projects with customers, we are the best tool for you to do that. And we will talk with these other systems you already have in place. We will integrate deeply with Salesforce, with Gainsight, with HubSpot, etc., right? Jira. So let each team use something that's purpose-built for them, which is all-in-one for them. And these tools all need to talk to each other. And that's my view of how things are panning out. Of course, I think at every moment there will be someone that does something more special for a specific aspect, right? So Salesforce is the CRM, but then for insights and next actions on your accounts, maybe you bring in a 𝗩𝗓𝗓, right? And you don't try to build everything into Salesforce. So in that sense, there may still be that push and pull. If everything had to be all-in-one, only one software will exist, which will be Salesforce. But I think we know that's not the case.
Yes. I love this answer. And this is exactly what I said, that there's a new realization I have about this. The way I think about it is, considering 𝗩𝗲𝗏's journey as well, the way you said it also resonated with me. It's purpose-built for the specific function or persona, but all-in-one for that specific end-to-end workflows of that persona. So the persona is where you are focusing on more, and hey, this particular persona, we're going to go special purpose build. But for that specific persona, they have a lot of different things that they end up doing. And then you go all-in-one on the use cases, the workflows that they have. And one of the philosophies that I really admire that HubSpot has is what they call solve for the customer. HubSpot was one of those things that they looked at the journey of the customer and they said, doesn't matter how many tools that they end up using, we will solve for this customer's journey. And then eventually you end up becoming all-in-one, but you're focusing on that customer. So that's really how I think about it. And I also tell people that sometimes depends on who's the buyer in front of you. If the buyer, for example, in 𝗩𝗏's case, if they're comparing us with Microsoft Teams, then we position as a purpose-built tool because Microsoft Teams has transcription, but it does not have all the advanced things that we do. But they compare us with Gong, which only does, let's say, call recording and intelligence. Then now we have all-in-one where we say, well, you can replace Gong, Chili Piper, all-in-one with 𝗩𝗏's all-in-one tool. So it depends on also who is in front of you. You can leverage that language a little differently also. So I love this. And I know Rocketlane is a 𝗩𝗏 customer. When we decided to onboard you, we switched from our leading competitor to us. And we failed in onboarding you the proper way. Do you remember some of the experiences that, because on one hand, I was like, this is our onboarding specialist company. We need to give them the best experience. And, but we clearly did not. There were still some balls that were dropped. When that happened, again, I've never had this conversation openly, so I'm being candid here. what was going on in your mind? That did I make a mistake based on Aditya's relationship level, or did I let my team down? And because you were texting me and then we were fixing some of the issues, and I'm basically taking this as an opportunity to learn from you what we could have done differently, how we should have handled things differently.
Yeah, I think I remember very well. There were two things happening here, right? I think Ben, our VP sales at the time, was sort of leading the effort from our side, coordinating and getting people over. And that was only like he was looking at things from that sales perspective. But we had a whole much larger team that was using the product, right? Like everyone was consuming from it. Everyone was recording their calls on it, not just the sales team. Somewhere, I think that perspective was missed, that, hey, we need to get everyone on board because our access to the other tools shut on a specific date, right? And by then, we need to have moved everyone over. Second is, I think I had stated two things that matter really to me. One was to say, hey, all my old calls, and I had 2.5 years of calls that we had migrated over from a previous tool as well, and we wanted everything in. And I wanted like beautiful Slack notifications, which was, I know, a feature request at that time.
Yeah.
But I needed these two because I had other stakeholders internally who were like, why are you even changing software? And that's what happens, right? Every buyer is accountable to someone else within their company who's going to ask them, why did you do this? Why are you like upsetting things within the company? And so those two things mattered most to me, but I wasn't getting the visibility into, are we on track with those? And dates were coming closer and I wasn't sure if we're going to get what we wanted. That's why I was texting you with some anxiety around, hey, I don't see us having moved the content yet, or I don't see the Slack notifications ready yet. What's happening, right? And there wasn't any proactive update coming from the team saying, hey, I understand, here are your requirements. Here is where we are with it. That wasn't coming to me, right? And I was one of the stakeholders involved in the decision, so that made me nervous.
I love this feedback, and doubling down in this. So this is one, essentially, that you're telling us to provide that kind of onboarding experience, the best onboarding experience, being proactive, even though, let's say, we were in good way, we were on track delivering things that we had promised, but we were not proactive in communicating that status all the time. And you were nervous, you were trying to ping me, make sure that things are done in a proper way or not. If you want to go deeper into that topic in general, what would be the best onboarding experience you would think, or what are the common mistakes that people do? This is one of the things that we could generalize. What else would come in top of mind so that you would advise people that, hey, here are the things, make sure you don't drop the ball. And that will at least ensure you that you're giving the next, let's say, if not 100%, but at least 90% of the best experience from an onboarding point of view.
Right. I think one of the things which is a common mistake I've seen is you have a checklist of some sort on a spreadsheet for each customer, and you're just checking off items over there. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's shared with the customer. But then if you don't make it a plan with dates around it, when are you going to start an activity? When is it going to happen? If you don't present that picture to the customer of, here is the plan we have for you, right? And today it's not just this happening after contract is signed. I would actually say customers don't buy software today if they feel, they're not confident about your implementation plan, right? If they don't feel you will pull it off, they actually stay away. They're like, oh, this may turn into shelfware. Let me just go with someone who knows what they're doing, how they're going to bring me on. So have that well-crafted plan for each customer. There will be like an overall template, but you also can show that you understood that customer's needs well by saying, hey, migration matters to you, so I'm going to pull it up front a little. So, it's not down to the last day of going live, but we're going to do it with some buffer because I know you're going to have the other product switched off. So I have a plan B for you, right? So showing that comfort in timelines of how you have buffers built in and what's the overall plan, so I know when to expect something, is great. Secondly, I would say create the right momentum, right? So very often when we have a series of things we need to do, we break it down into weeks and say, hey, this week, this is going to happen. Next week, this is going to happen. And that's fine for SMB to some extent, as long as you are doing those in that week and updating the customer, or if the customer needs to do things, you're chasing them to get it done that week. Because the biggest risk in these implementation projects is losing momentum, right? Once you've lost momentum, everyone knows they're continuing to do their business without your software in place, and it becomes lower priority. Other things take its place, and you may never go live, right? So someone's going to disengage, someone's going to lose their job, something happens. And if you had gone with the right intensity and momentum from get-go, and I would say for enterprise projects, it's like daily basis, right? Like, what did we intend to get done today? Did we get it done today? You need a program manager doing that for each of the big projects that you're running, because if someone had this beautiful quote, how does a project get delayed? And the answer he had was 1 day at a time. It's a different way of thinking of the answer, right?
True. So very well said.
Yeah.
Now, this is amazing. And basically making sure you have the templates, but personalize it based on customer needs and their priorities. Don't just go with the same copy-paste kind of model, and really truly show that you understood this customer. Even though in your mind they're similar to 20 other customers that you onboarded, they will feel valued if you truly prioritize their priorities itself. And the second one, the momentum, engagement, showing if you drop the ball in the momentum, even though you're not making progress, constant communication, updates will also help. And the earlier point you also mentioned, that be proactive, even if you're not at the time. Your buyers are waiting for updates from you. Before they get anxious, you keep them at ease. So love this feedback. One of the other things I've seen, and this goes back to the whole onboarding and process, where typically onboarding happens after the sales team. And so there's a handoff process from sales team to onboarding team about all the things that they need to do. And then once the customer is fully onboarded, implemented, then you're probably again handing off to your customer success managers to manage the relationship. Now, throughout the process, the buyer is still the same. The typical decision makers and champions are still the same. But from our side, when we are serving these customers, team members change. What have you seen? We end up giving bad experience in these handoffs. And what would you advise? Again, similar line of thinking. What were the 2 or 3 pitfalls to watch out to not give bad experience and really ensure that we are giving the best modern experience to our customers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, someone just throwing this account over a wall to someone else with some, form that you filled out, and the other person, the onboarding manager or customer success manager, goes in without the full context, right? Instead, if it is a large customer, like a mid-market or enterprise deal, then have a pre-kickoff call with the salesperson and the onboarding manager. The salesperson is recapping the goals that were set. Hey, this is what you wanted. This is what we learned. Anything else that we should take into account during that initial implementation? Here is where things are for you today. Here are your goals of what you want to accomplish. Recap why they're buying, what's important to them, what did you learn about their environment and about their, priorities from the sales process. Capture that. Let the implementation manager also show that they have digested that information already and put together a draft plan of how your onboarding is going to go. Sometimes it's even better to do this before the sale. In fact, this will make sure you get that deal when you do this before sale, right? Showcase your plan that you created for them. Introduce the onboarding manager before the deal closes.
Yep.
That ensures that confidence builds in the customer. That, oh, this is the person who's going to, take me over the line. So I know already their capabilities, their caliber. I feel more confident. Let's go with them, right? The other aspect is whether it's a pre-kickoff or whether it's done in a sort of document fashion, create something that you're going to share and confirm with the customer, right? So pre-kickoff it's happening in a call. Otherwise, it could be a document or a form that you filled, but it's detailed enough that you're comfortable as a salesperson sharing it with the customer and your onboarding manager, saying, hey, here's what we learned about you and your needs. Is this accurate? Is there anything else I'm missing? Here is what, John is going to work with from here to take this account forward, right? And before we get on the kickoff call, we want to make sure this is the case. The second thing you do is ensure that the buyer side key stakeholder, like the exec sponsor, is on that kickoff, and your salesperson ideally also is on the kickoff. So that makes them a lot more accountable to ensure they're passing on information, because they're there in the room, in the meeting when it's happening, and they don't want to look like they didn't pass on the right information, right? So when you get them to join that meeting, everyone is more aligned. The salesperson likely will actually take a look at what is going to happen in kickoff, the agenda, the plan, etc., and give their input, because they're also on the meeting, and the customer is going to ask them, right? Like, hey, didn't you even share this with your colleague? So
Yeah,
that creates a little more accountability on everyone.
I love this. And I think I've seen this multiple times, especially when the deals are mid-market, large enterprise. They want to know during the buying process as well what your implementation plan is. Like, we have our own slide deck that we show here is the onboarding plan is going to look like. But if you even go with the dynamic the way you said, hey, here's the project plan look like, here is the time it takes, this is the person who will help you, that confidence is brought in, because it's one hand, it's the tool, but that anxiety about will it be successful is still there. And by showing these plans during the sales cycle itself would be massive help, and which also builds the handoff related context is also there then. I love this. One other thing, what I'm seeing in the modern SaaS right now, this whole product-led sales, most of the times what I'm seeing, people are doing trials, evaluations already when they're buying this software. And then you have this now, sometimes the way I'm still trying to decide what's the right motion here. But some of the accounts during the trial, they want to invite larger team itself. So it almost feel like before even they bought, we need to now have them onboarded during the trial period to really make the purchase decision. What are your thoughts to bringing an implementation manager during pre-sale activity itself, during the selling activity itself? Or do you think, no, we need to evolve salespeople enough to handle the onboarding and that kind of implementation during the trial on their own? And only when the bigger accounts really need the contract is signed, and then you have the full-on team onboarding, that's when we should get the dedicated onboarding team or implementation team to do additional configuration. So how are you thinking this whole onboarding role and responsibilities are shifting or evolving in this product-led sales world?
My take here is salesperson needs to get more comfortable doing a lot of things on their own, especially I think in the modern world, as you said. Customers like buying from people who are knowledgeable. I don't think every enterprise customer expects that their salesperson is like highly technical, but SMB and mid-market find a lot of comfort in that. Enterprise wants to see you have all the kind of people that are needed for them to succeed. So it's, you bring the whole army, like solution engineers, whatnot, and, but enterprise, from my experience, enterprise doesn't necessarily do the kind of trial that a mid-market or SMB does. So what's important is to set expectations with the customer on what they're going to get out of that trial, right? Hey, maybe even catch up with them about what are you trying to validate through the trial? Let's enable that for you. And that might be just the salesperson doing it. That might be if like an integration is super important for them to test as part of that validation, then bring in like the onboarding manager or a solution engineer if you have a separate team.
Yeah.
I like, as of today, we have the same people who onboard the customer doing that role of the solution engineer as well. It helps from a continuity and handoff perspective to not have different people, and accountability as well. Hey, you said this will work, then now do it, right? Like make it work. So that helps. And I think scoping down what a customer is trying to learn from the trial is important to put a timeline around it, saying, hey, if this is what you want to like verify, why do you need 3 weeks? Let's do it this week. Let's set up a call where all your team does this with us. Let's do it together. Let's get their feedback. Let's do a vote at the end of the meeting for who likes the experience they had. And, that should do, right? Versus I need like 1 month of trialing something and you actually know that they're not doing much in that period, they're going to have the same questions at the end of 1 month versus 1 week. So, manage it better is what I would say.
I love this feedback. I think essentially you can still bring in implementation team members early on in the sales process, but reduce the scope. Your implementation, typical full-blown implementation, is going to be a lot more comprehensive, time-bounded, focus on the core use cases. I love it. I think there are a lot of things that we learn in terms of how the modern onboarding experience would be, handoff experience would be. I'm going to shift the gear a little bit. Once these accounts are onboarded, now obviously you have the customer success managing the relationship. But there's one thing I've seen what you guys are doing really well. You have this community and a pre-flight community, right? So, and it's not necessarily related to your customers, but there are even larger audience who are part of the community. I wanted to understand, how did it start? Like, what was the impetus behind it that we need to start a community? And how is it helping you both in your new customer acquisition growth, but also managing your customer success relationships and helping the retention? So you have been running it for like a couple of years now. Do you have any insights? What's working, what's not working there?
So I would say, interestingly, we started the community 9 months before we launched our product.
That's impressive.
So the community came first, not the product.
Amazing.
It came from this insight, right? So we sort of, during our process of validating what we were building, the problem we selected, we were chatting with a lot of people in this space and learning about how they're improving, how they do their implementations and onboarding projects. We were learning about their goals. We were learning about what they were optimizing for at each stage. And it felt like there were so many different things that each of them were doing and each of them was focused on, right? So someone was doing a great job with stakeholder management and steering committee meetings and whatnot. Someone else was doing a great job with partner-driven implementations. Someone else was, really putting thought into what they should do in their kickoff meetings, or, how to gamify adoption and whatnot, right? So we just felt, hey, there are so many elements to a successful onboarding. Wouldn't it help to have all these people come and share with each other what successes they're seeing, what initiatives they're championing? And so we first sort of started creating this series of events where people will just come and share. We called it initially implementation nightmares. And someone said, hey, that's too negative. So we made it implementation stories. And these implementation story sessions, once, the first one that happened, it was a 1-hour session and people were asking questions for 15 more minutes. There were more unanswered questions. And at that moment, I just said, hey, I'm going to invite all of you to a Slack group. And if you can join there, let's continue the conversation there, right? Because I can't keep this Zoom session on forever. The, person who was leading the conversation was sharing, he needs to leave for his next meeting, but let's make this something, right? That's how it started really. And then we started adding everyone into the Slack channel, identifying new people to come and tell their stories from the Slack channel. And, one thing led to the other and it became a full-blown community.
I love it. I was going to ask you, how do you even start? And you exactly shared. It started with probably a virtual Zoom session first, having some experts share their stories or experiences, and then eventually starting maybe Slack group. And now I think you even have local chapters where the local teams, you have multiple events, in-person events as well. I'm definitely inspired. Yeah. So any advice would you give me if I want to get started on building something community? Like, here are the things, learnings that we should watch out, and why should we? Is it because it's cool to do it, or is it, hey, here's how direct impact I'm having, both either on new customer acquisition or even your existing customers are learning about you? How do you advise me? Why should I do this? Spend time on building community now?
So I think it does a lot of things for you. The biggest thing I think is brand. So us being the first and only community to have focused on people in this role, onboarding, implementation, it really meant people looked at us differently, right? We weren't the same as our competitors because we were going beyond our product and saying, hey, here's a resource for you. Here's where you can go and learn. You want to hire people. Here's like passionate people about this space. Come and engage with us. Come and learn with us. Contribute back as well, right? Like everyone, irrespective of where you are in your journey, you may be 1 year into doing your role, but you have something to teach someone who hasn't started the journey yet. So we made it about that, right? Like, and I think that helps brand. Even when a new prospect comes in and is talking to us, it's not like we're looking at community as a lead gen. Rather, we're saying, hey, we got a new lead. Them knowing that we run this community puts us ahead, right? So they look at us differently now. So it helps in conversions. It also helps in lead gen, but we don't take that short-term view on community. We're building it for the long run. We're building it to be the clear leader in the space. It's inspired us to do many things. We have a lot of content coming out of the community as well, right? All these events, conversations, it all turns into blogs. We have Pre-Flight is the name of the community. So we have Pre-Flight conversations as a series of blogs, which take conversations that happened, summarize it, post it as a blog. There's Pre-Flight events. There's Pre-Flight huddles, which is the in-person event that you talked about. People want to meet each other. And sometimes I think I've seen, like with each individual customer, you may be on the back foot with some of them because of, something they asked is not yet there, or, some bugs that they're facing, etc. But I would say it's great to put these customers together with others and focus not on your product, but focus on the problems they are commonly trying to solve, right? So we've done some of these sessions. We're going to do more. If customers are listening and not yet invited, they should know it's coming. But just these sort of thought workshops that we've started doing with them, which is about saying, hey, how do we help you zoom out, customer, and think about what you're doing, learn about what others are doing, and bring those new ideas to life, or even motivate your team to think about those new ideas, right? And we want to be a resource in enabling that. And so we've done a few in-person events, which have turned into WhatsApp groups with 10 customers together, right? And
Nice.
That's, again, an interesting way, I think, of creating that sense of, hey, it's valuable to be part of this Rocketlane network and Pre-Flight and all of that, because we get to learn from each other. We get exposed to new ideas, new problems, etc.
And who is responsible? Because this is a lot of work to manage, involve, engage with them all the time. I'm sure many people in the company, but is there a dedicated person that you have who manages these things, who's responsible for this? Where does it fit into the umbrella of the org chart, you would say?
So community for us fits under marketing, though it's not necessarily marketing a product. We look at community as a product of its own in a way. And we have a community manager who runs it, but everyone else is equally passionate about community. Every sales rep knows the value of what our community brings, and every conversation they have with the prospect, they introduce the community to them. They get them added to the community, right? So I think that's like a really collaborative effort from day one that we've had between sales and marketing. And in terms of the customer community, it's a combination of customer success and marketing. And I would say, from my perspective, I put some time into it. I have our, there's one person on the team, Sanya, who's part of the founder's office. She also puts effort into ensuring that we are making progress on this aspect. So it's like all of us know the value of this as a company, right? And that helps us all put our energies towards it. But yeah, customer success owns the customer community creation, and marketing owns the broader Pre-Flight community.
I love it. Shifting gear a little bit, in your recent example, if you purchase any tool, what would you say that I bought something and it felt me, wow, this is an amazing modern buying experience? And what is that when you're trying to buy, what that modern buying experience would mean to you?
Honestly, I don't think I've come across a great buying experience yet. In fact, I would like to motivate someone to take this on as a problem and solve it. If there are any, to-be entrepreneurs who also watch this podcast, I'd say it's actually a problem waiting to be solved. So here's my perspective on what could be a great buyer journey, right? And of course, there's caveats. I might be missing some points here, but one is I want to first state my goals on let's say a platform, saying, hey, there are 20 goals that anyone looking for onboarding software could possibly think of. So give me that list. Let me pick which are the top goals for me today, and some context of what are important integrations for me, what are important experiences I care about, etc. Now, if I've given you that experience on a platform, shortlist and show me what are the top products that satisfy or have like the right experiences for those goals and challenges. And let me actually watch small videos of how they help me with each of those goals or each of the experiences I care about. Hey, I care about how we run a project, so show me some of the project management capabilities. I care about how we run our meetings, show me some of how the meeting capabilities are on this. Let me watch some of those videos, show me a video on how the integration works, show me a video on... So I don't even need to go to a demo and block time and explain myself to do that initial shortlisting, right? I've seen a lot from these tools now, and then I maybe pick my top 2 or top 3. What gets missed in this is, you go in with, a note of what you want. Like, even if you don't have a formal RFP, you have some sort of checklist in your mind, and you may miss out on what else is out there that can help you, right? Like, so there is a need to discover some amount of what's unique in the products out there, which can influence and change my way of thinking about what I want. So there needs to be show me what's also special or unique about these platforms.
Interesting.
So that I get educated about, what I'm not even thinking about.
Correct.
That happens all the time with Rocketlane, by the way. In our demos, people will come in thinking they want something and they leave thinking, oh, I wasn't even thinking about any of these things.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, because people do have certain goals or objectives they're thinking about, and they want to quickly know how I can solve this specific problem. At that time, they have a narrow lens. The job of a salesperson in this product-led and marketing-aware world is to educate them about the things that they are not thinking about it. And so to your point, give them those brief videos about things that they are looking for, but then also have a way for them to learn additional things that they were not thinking about, and show them the path. Get your job done, but here are the possible paths you can go in the future. That's what I wanted to know. So it's sad to hear that you have an experience, you don't remember anything recently you bought, which exactly means that why we need to, as a community, continue to share these problems with the rest of the vendors and providers, that as a SaaS provider, that we are still not giving the best experience to our buyers, including us. I mean, we still have so many problems that we are trying to fix, but love to hear that. Last thing I would ask you, is there any one thing that you did at Rocketlane that was against the conventional wisdom? And you said, well, yes, that's what everyone tells me to do, but I'm thinking from this modern experience point of view, buyer's experience point of view, even though it doesn't make sense from unit economics, even though it doesn't make sense that never other people have not done it, what would be that one thing that could come to your mind?
I would say we focused on brand from early, which goes against the grain. People say, hey, first get your, 100 customers, show product market fit, then you can focus on brand. But we sort of, from day one, from before we launched product, we started focusing on building somewhat of a brand and audience for it through the community, through, events that we were participating in. In fact, we did our first event sponsorship a month before we launched our product.
That's amazing. So were you hoping to launch the product at that event if the product was not there?
No, we had a date already in mind. We sort of wanted to do a thought leadership session, invite people to the booths to do their demos with us, etc. It's not launch ready, but it's demo ready, right? So that was
interesting.
The idea.
Brilliant. I love that. Thank you very much, Sri. lots of nuggets of actionable advice. For me also, I'm going to take some definitely few points as an inspiration and start working in our onboarding and implementation process, and also this whole community thing. Where can people connect with you?
I am Srikrishnan Ganesan on LinkedIn, 𝗓𝗛𝗚𝗓𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗘𝗥𝗦 on Twitter, Sri@rocketlane.com, Sri@rocketlane.com on email. Feel free to connect with me wherever you find comfortable.
Yeah, I would 100% recommend for people, if they want to learn more all about the modern onboarding experience, the customer success. Sri and his team has been putting some amazing content, so do follow them. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode here. And if you like, do follow us on our YouTube channel and any other podcast platforms where you're listening. Comment, share your requirements, share your additional topics that we should be covering. And if you have any other guests that you in your mind, do let us know. DM me. As you know, again, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Thanks everyone. And thanks, Sri. Have a great one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.